Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic. I'm your co-host, Julia.
And this is Barry the Film Critic. Hello, everyone.
And tonight we are doing a movie that probably very few people have heard of.
You know what? If you love Paul Rudd and Ant-Man, you're going to love him in The Shape of Things.
You're cute. I don't like your hair.
Thanks. Can I call you?
Okay.
Why do you like me?
What?
Why would you like me? I'm not anything.
Don't worry about why when what is right in front of you. I think everyone should see themselves doing it, and their friends should see it too.
Adam, what's up with you? Did you lose weight?
He cut his hair or something.
I'm very proud of you.
You amaze me.
And you amaze me.
If you could alter just one thing about that.
The idea of you having some surgery. It's an experience.
She likes it.
What I want to know is, do you like it?
What is that girl doing to you?
You don't take my calls now?
Tell me what to do, anything you want.
Give them up as friends.
What, did she give you a haircut and now you're her puppy?
From Focus Features comes a new film by acclaimed director Neil LaBute.
Did you like what you saw? Did it get you hot?
I just hope the next time we pass each other, I recognize who the hell you are.
Gretchen Mol, Paul Rudd, Rachel Weisz, and Fred Weller.
It's a living example of our obsession with the surface of things.
The Shape of Things.
I like this movie a lot. I wish more people knew this Paul Rudd, to say the truth. I'm really... remember when they first announced that Christian Bale was playing Batman? You're like, oh, he's been my favorite actor for years, and now everybody knows who he is. It's exactly the kind of... No. Like, you had a good point.
I know.
It's exactly the kind of snobbery I feel about Paul Rudd. It's like, I knew this guy when he was an acclaimed Broadway actor. I was not interested in Clueless or a lot of the stuff that he was doing, but I love that he was in The Last Night of Ballyhoo, which I saw. The Broadway production came to Denver. I don't know if he was in it. To my shame, I don't remember. He might have been. I might have seen him on stage. But Paul Rudd was in this Pulitzer Prize winning play called The Last Night of Ballyhoo, and then he started to do some Neil LaBute plays, and this was one of them. And the first movie I ever saw him in, no kidding, was Halloween 6. He's the star of the 6th Halloween movie. So, like...
Do you want to know the first movie I saw him in?
You're going to see Clueless.
Clueless.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, but I do want to say, for the record, that I was a huge Christian Bale fan before anybody knew who he was. And when people would ask me, well, who's your favorite actor? I was like, Christian Bale. They're like, who's that? Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's kind of my point.
Paul Rudd claim to fame.
Well, Paul Rudd was never my favorite actor, although I like him a lot. But I wish that he would do more movies like this. I wish he would do more dramas and thrillers. Because I certainly, for me, it was an adjustment seeing him in something like Anchorman. You know, now that's like his bread and butter. A movie like, I Love You, Man, that's like what people know him for. And I love Role Models. That's my favorite of all the dumb comedies he's done. I love that movie. But he's a great dramatic actor. And he's in a role right now with movies that are, much more mainstream accessible. And I kind of wish he would do more stuff like this.
Okay, so last night you were like, yeah, let's watch this movie. You've never seen it. And we start it, and I'm like, wow, Rachel Weisz, she looks so good. Like, when was this movie made? And then when I realized it was from 20 years ago, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad to know that, like, she still doesn't look like she's, 20 when she's probably older than that.
Well, she's aged extremely well, and she's married to James Bond. That's the difference in 20 years. Okay. She's now married to 007.
No, but the point was, I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense, that she's so much younger. And then I said, I think I've seen this movie. And you're like, what's the ending? Like, I don't remember. You're like, you've never seen it. You would know it if you've seen the ending. And halfway through, I was like, oh my gosh, I just remembered. So
did it take away from the experience? Did it make it better?
It was better because I think we saw this the year we got married. It's like 20 years ago. And I don't know, it's not one of those movies that like it stuck with me at the time, but I mean 20 years goes by. It's not like I've been thinking about it.
I want to revisit it for a number of reasons. First of all, I was a fan of the director for a while. His movies became mainstream for a while, so I just kind of lost interest. He did the remake of Death at a Funeral, which was actually pretty good, but he also did this Unlawful Entry ripoff called Lakeview Terrace with Patrick Wilson and Samuel L. Jackson. It was really disappointing because it's like, this is Neil LaBute. What are you doing wasting your time in this kind of material? And I'm behind because I'm told by a number of people who I respect and trust when it comes to movies that he's made some good movies lately. He did a movie called Some Velvet Morning with Stanley Tucci and Alice Eve. My dear friend Ben Bonnet has been telling me for years to watch it, and I still have to watch it. So I'm told that he's still making, you know, some really gripping little films. But like, they're just, his heyday has kind of come and gone. The reason being The Wicker Man. He directed the Nicolas Cage remake of The Wicker Man in 2006. I saw it the day it opened in the theater. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as people say it is. Most people know it from the YouTube clips, which are humiliating and embarrassing for all involved. So that was kind of the beginning of the end, because he was on a roll for a while making films like this. He did a film I love with Renee Zellweger called Nurse Betty, which is a great movie. Yeah, his filmography is hit and miss, but I like this one because it's a companion piece with his first film, his masterpiece, which is called In the Company of Men, which I love. And then he did a film right after that called Your Friends and Neighbors, which is probably even more disturbing and off-putting. I like this filmmaker a lot, and let me just jump right to it. People accuse Neil LaBute of being sexist and misogynist. I don't think that's the case. I think his movies and his plays are about sexism and misogyny. I don't think that's the same difference as being a part of the problem as much as someone who wants to explore this problem. And he's also someone who doesn't let anybody off the hook. He typically doesn't create characters that provide easy answers for or apologies for. His characters tend to be equally despicable or at least unsympathetic, which I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked watching this film and then remembering the ending because I was like, okay, now I can kind of maybe see it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, where you can look at the characters a little more critically because it wasn't just kind of along for the ride like I normally am. But yeah, we should get into it because the ending of this film is so nuts and so it's a twist.
Yep.
It's a crazy twist.
Let's get to it. Most of LaBute's plays, and movies, they begin with a line that's very telling. In this case, the first thing that Paul Rudd's a college worker, he works in a museum, and he sees Rachel Weisz basically going past the look point of this classic piece of art.
He's like, okay, so
first thing he says to her is, you've stepped over the line.
Yeah.
Which is a very telling first line. For the movie.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. You stepped over the line because she goes over the red ropes and she's taking a picture of the genitals of this large statue that's being covered by like a leaf. And they have this long conversation about how originally it didn't have this leaf and people thought it was gratuitous and they covered it. They didn't even do a great job. And now she's going to take her spray paint and make her own, she's going to like spray paint a penis onto this statue. Yeah, onto the fig leaf. And he's like, no, please don't do that. My shift's almost over. Like, it's really going to ruin my night. Like, I have another job I have to get to. And, she's like, well, you could just walk away. Like, you don't have to pretend you didn't see me, kind of a thing. And they kind of get into a conversation about art. She's an artist. He's like super nerdy in this opening scene. I didn't remember like how the movie went. I was like, wow, he looks different. Like I specifically thought that his nose looked different. And I was like, is that a prosthetic? Cause it is a prosthetic, but I didn't remember that. But his hair's all just kind of shaggy. And
he looks awful.
Yeah.
He's wearing this really baggy brown coat.
Brown corduroy.
Yeah, he looks awful. He's wearing glasses, and I mean, it's I don't know, it's kind of fun. I like it when actors are willing to de-prettify, and Paul Rudd's a very handsome dude. He still is, and he looks bad. really bad here.
He looks really bad.
Whereas Rachel Weisz looks effervescent.
I mean, yeah, she looks luminous in like every scene.
But intense, and her character's intense. And it's interesting because this is also one of these things where, okay, this character isn't actually instantly likable, because this is essentially a meet cute in a traditional sense, but it's also like he is like a lost puppy that she's kind of humoring at first, and then she's, she kind of opens herself up to him. But initially in this conversation, it's like, okay, if this is our boy meets girl situation, the girl seems really prickly and hardened, whereas the boy seems kind of desperate, which is not something you typically see for a movie like this.
Mm-hmm. And it is a little bit funny in the sense that she's like, well, what if I don't go back over? And he's like, well, everybody goes back over. Like, what do you mean? She's like, well, what are you going to do about it? He's kind of like, I don't know. This has never happened before. So I feel like there is a little bit of humor. And
he musters up the courage to ask for her number, and she spray paints it on the inside of his coat.
Yeah. That should have been like maybe one of our first clues that this is a little bit of a doomed situation.
There's a lot of clues. If you watch this film a second time and you really lean into Rachel Weisz's performance, the choices she makes are very consistent with what we find out overall about the character. And I guess it's a terrific performance. I think she's excellent in this. I think this is a very underrated performance. I know she did this on stage, and it was an acclaimed performance. These are, for those of you listening to this and you don't really know much about this film, which is fine. This is not a well-known movie. It was done on stage in 2001. And the four actors that are in the movie are the four actors that did this. Initially, it was London, then it moved to New York. And when it was done as a stage play, it was just four actors. And in the movie, they do the thing where they kind of litter the screen with extras in certain scenes, so it doesn't look, really bizarre and atypical that it's just two people. I think LaBute does a really good job of opening it up. It doesn't feel like a filmed play necessarily, but it is dialogue and character driven. That's the big giveaway. Like, oh yeah, this is definitely based on a play. So that's the opening scene. I believe in the next scene we see that
it's been a couple months, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And every time a scene cuts away to a new scene, Paul Rudd's appearance always looks a shade different. There's always some big difference.
Yeah. So in this scene, he's looking thinner, a little bit better dressed. The hair is a little bit different. And he's introducing her to his old roommate and the roommate's fiance.
Fiance is played by Gretchen Mol, and her fiance is played by Frederick Weller, the cousin of Peter Weller, the magnificent actor who once played RoboCop and Buckaroo Banzai, among many, many other roles.
Yes, so Paul Rudd plays Adam, Rachel Weisz plays Evelyn.
Eve, Adam and Eve, and... Oh, don't miss that detail.
I didn't catch that. Gretchen.
You know why that's there? Because I will defend Neil LaBute as not being misogynist or sexist, as many have said that he is. On the other hand, is he pretentious? Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Nothing wrong with that. I always say the best directors are pretentious. This is a pretentious director and a pretentious writer as well. But that's okay.
So Gretchen Mol plays Jenny, and she is the fiance to Philip, played by Frederick Weller. And so Adam and Evelyn are, outside of the university. They're going to go see a show, I guess. Mm-hmm. And they're having this conversation and kind of centering around all the changes that he's made and, how happy he is. And at one point he says something like, "Why do you like me?" And this maybe was a clue to her character, but she's kind of like, I don't don't do that. I don't like it when you're not confident. I don't like it when you second guess yourself and basically don't ask why. Don't ask why I like you. That just isn't even a good question. I thought was interesting.
And it's interesting that it's established that Adam was once roommates with Phil. Phil is a real dude bro The guy is just testosterone and forward momentum and sex in motion. He is everything that Adam is not. It's kind of amazing that these two ever function as roommates at one point.
It was like opposites attract, you know?
Yeah, I mean, definitely an odd couple sort of scenario. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's established also that Adam and Gretchen Mall's character used to have he used to have a real crush on her, and he just never acted on it. And that's something that his roommate
I thought
picks on
she
him.
had a crush on him. And
Whatever the case, like it's one of these things where his roommate is hounding him about it, you know, which is
that's later. That's like in the
it's
next
teasing, but it's also sadistic.
Yeah. So they meet Evelyn, and Jenny is immediately like, "Oh wow, like you really changed, Adam." Like she kind of like hones in on that, you know. So then in the next scene, they go back to the other, like someone's apartment, and this is where they're talking about the wedding because Jenny, you know, they're getting married.
Yeah.
And they're going to be having
An underwater wedding.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all they know. And so Adam's like, "What? I mean, do we have to like be underwater with you?" And that's so weird. And they're like, "We don't know. We just want it to be different and cool."
Yeah, I mean, something that this movie does, and there's a scene not long after it where a very long monologue takes place where two characters are expressing their feelings for each other, and they're on a child's playground. This is another one of those scenes like these are, even though these are college age people, they're acting like kids for the most part. They don't know how to be grown-ups. They don't know how to act the way they should, or they're not able to properly assert themselves, or when they do assert themselves, it's awkward or hurtful. It's kind of a running thing that these main characters, even though they're certainly interesting and likable in certain ways, but there's an arrested development there. You know, there's a lack of maturity, and this whole wedding thing is interesting because it's so ridiculous. Of course, like it's the only thing that matters that they're doing this underwater wedding. Otherwise, the relationship really doesn't even have a purpose. It's like, okay, we're committing to this outrageous idea, but beyond that, it's like you don't even understand why these two are together.
Right. Yeah, we don't even know because Jenny kind of is like,
she's sweet.
well, she's
and he's
sweet.
a jerk. So
yeah, she's sweet, but she's like, no, Philip is not sweet.
Yeah,
He's not at all. And I'm like, why are you with this guy?
Yeah.
But at one point, the vandalism of this statue comes up, and they're like, "Oh, did you hear? Did you read in the paper, the school paper, that somebody vandalized the statue?" And Adam and Evelyn are like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting." And he's like, "I can't believe it. That's just so awful." And then Evelyn really like defends the person herself who did this, and Philip, like, he cannot handle the fact that she's even talking about how this could be anything positive, anything other than like anarchy.
Yeah. And she lashes out at him violently. She actually attacks him.
Yeah, she does. Like, he turns his back and she just like pushes him down, which I was like, wow, this is a little nuts. Yeah.
I kind of get it from both of them. He's shocked that she would do this, and he finds her ridiculous, and she can't stand him, and she's just finally lashing out at him. So for me, like, yeah, I get it on both sides. Yeah, I'm like, I don't, she shouldn't be hitting him like this, but if she kills him, whatever.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think our next scene is Adam and Evelyn
In the playground.
No, in bed.
Oh, Adam and okay, all right.
Yeah, no, not Jenny's scene. It's Adam and Evelyn in bed, and she's like, I think she's taking a picture under the covers of his crotch for something. And so they're kind of what we find out is that he has agreed to her filming them have sex.
Right.
And he's like, I don't think I ever want to watch that. And she's like, oh, I think I want to watch it. I think everyone should watch their friends have sex. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's just like such an outrageous statement.
And universal. No, I'm kidding. Not at all.
I'm like, nobody wants to watch their friends do that.
Depends on the friends, but yes.
They do end up getting in their first fight. Mm-hmm. And
because they went to this outrageous piece of performance art that Paul Rudd graphically describes.
Yes.
His description makes it really funny. There's a nice bit of dark comedy here. And it's this question of, what
is art?
What is it? And, is there a line where you say, that's not art? And the film is constantly dealing with that. LaBute is trying to, force this debate on us as the audience. And it's a great conversation to have because, of course, the opening scenes, this question of, is what she's doing, is it vandalism or is it art? And this performance they've seen, which I will not describe, it's also this question of what they witnessed. Is it art or is it exploitation? Is it disgusting? And as the film, continues, that question keeps coming up because we're so postmodern at this point. We're past pop art. We're past, modernism, postmodernism. It's so. This is 2003. By this point, we've gone so far in the idea of determining exactly what is art. I always say to my students, what can be defined as art is anything that is created that did not exist. Now, I'll bring this up because it's entertaining. We'll talk about this. Hopefully, maybe our listeners will learn something. Maybe you'll like this. So, you ever heard of Piero Manzoni?
Yeah, I think I know what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
What is it? Who is he?
No, just go ahead and talk.
So, Piero Manzoni, he famously created a work of art that's considered,
work of art in quotes.
Okay, there you go. There's over 90 of these cans full of his excrement. And each of these cans have been sealed and they're lead. So you can't use an x-ray to find out what's really in them. People all over the world still buy these cans and they go for 6 figures a can. And they're
buying lead cans with his supposed excrement in them and they can't verify if there's anything in there.
Nothing. Who knows? But he has said that, I guess there's over 90 of them. I believe somewhere between 80 and 90 of these cans. So this, it's a series. And it's a series. Not kidding. And, Manzoni said, it's a parody of art about how people buy art that isn't necessarily art. Also, it's also this idea at its pure, at the pureness of it, it's like, what is more art or artful? What is more a personal expression of ourselves than our fecal matter? And here it is, canned, that you could purchase for 6 figures. So what's crazy about this is there are art collectors all over the world who have purchased either a part of the cans or like dozens of the cans. Apparently, the story I heard, which I hope it's true. I heard that there's this Swiss couple that purchased a bunch of these cans, and they put the cans in the refrigerator in their Swiss Alps home, and it had to go in a very special refrigerator because you don't want to test what may or may not be in the cans. So apparently, what happened was this couple, they've got homes all over the world. They left their home, and there was a power out, so they come back. And the refrigerator, not only is there no power in the fridge, but what was in the cans depressurized and exploded. So apparently in that case, those cans were loaded.
Wow. So he really did put his...
In that case, but it's the question, like, how do you know? Because this artist also did a previous work where it was about air. So it was like jars of his air.
Yeah. See, these are the kinds of stunts that I'm calling BS on. I feel like these are people that are like trolling the art world and they're trolling art collectors just to see like how much money they can make and just to see like how idiotic people really are.
Perhaps they're expanding the definition of art because does art just have to be a painting, a sculpture, a didgeridoo? Can it be something exotic? Can it be something that, Okay,
it can be something exotic, but also this is a waste of time, a waste of money. It's nothing. Like it's kind of depraved to take a dump in a can and be like, yeah, this is my art. And because I am a person with a well-known name, now some idiot is going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on it. Like, why? For what purpose?
Well, there's like my dear friend Megan. Do you remember the art that she made in college?
Yes.
It was her endometriosis series where she took blood drawn from her endometriosis treatments, put it in panes of glass, and framed them. And they look like visions of another galaxy.
Yeah. Okay.
They were so stunning and beautiful.
She used that
and
to
you learn what
make-
it is, and you go, "Ooh, that's shocking. That's so arresting and different."
That is shocking and different, but also I've seen those, and you could like hang those up somewhere, and it would be really cool. Like there's something, like you said, it's something to look at. It's something that has a story behind it. It's not crap in a can.
But Julia, it's matter from within us. How is that any different from what Piero Manzoni did?
Do you think I want to look like I can like open?
I used to tease, and lovingly, because she's brilliant, but I used to tease Megan and say, like, look, you got vampire art, okay? That's vampires are going to see this and salivate. I'm kidding, but
I could take the cans from my cupboard right now. I could take the wrapping off so they are blank. I could stack them on a shelf, and it would be the same thing. Like, who cares? I can't see what's inside.
Well, here's another way to look at it. You could take your cabinet right now, your spice cabinet, put that in a gallery and say, call it whatever, call it Julia's method. And I'll bet there'll be people who look at it and be like, wow, it's lived in, it's fascinating, it's honest, it's raw.
This is like the people that like take a blank canvas, put nothing on it, and like hang it on a wall, and then in a gallery, and they're like, yeah, that's my art. It's like, you didn't do anything. You named a blank piece of canvas. Don't call it that art and try to make money off of that. I think it's the monetization of this kind of thing that is annoying to me. Like, do whatever you want, like showcase whatever you want, call it whatever you want, but don't try to like make money off of people. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Is it the monetization, or is it the intellectual weight that people put on it that also irritates you? We saw a play about this called Art. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that is
about
probably
the three
part of
guys
it.
who but the one guy who buys a blank canvas for I think like 5 figures. It's like a comedy. 3 guys. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
We saw
well,
that
it's like,
anyway.
I could just go down to Hobby Lobby and buy a blank canvas for, I don't know, $10.
Okay, but then would you consider something like dogs playing poker a work of art?
I mean, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I said yes.
Okay, but then why?
Because like somebody actually painted something.
But it's garbage. It's kitsch. It's pointless. It doesn't
mean it's good.
It's just something that we look at and then numbly. How about something that challenges us? How about something?
A blank piece of canvas is not challenging.
It does, because what are we seeing? We're seeing the absence of something. We're looking at something. Like, why are we looking at a blank canvas?
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't
why?
it affect us?
No.
To be like, somebody should paint something.
No, it doesn't affect
That's
us.
challenging. That's weird. That's art.
No.
Art should challenge.
It doesn't challenge me because I look at it and I go, this is nothing. And you're asking me to look at nothing and talk about nothing.
But you're also not into art, right? That has that sort of purpose, right? Art for
I'm
you
not into-
is about,
like you said, like,
I mean, like we have some pretty art on our wall right now.
Intellectualism.
All right, you don't like faux intellectualism, but like, but can't that also have an intrinsic beauty? Wouldn't it be interesting if I'm like, hey guys, you see that can I got over there? You see how I got like a little spotlight on it?
Oh my.
You guys don't know what's in that can, don't you?
Okay.
Okay, I got a
If
story.
somebody wants to put something on display as a discussion piece to get conversation going, like let's just say it was a blank thing and somebody's like doing a discussion thing, fine. I think what annoys me is that people are like, yeah, I'm going to spend $100,000 on that. Like, why? Why would you do that?
Because they wanted.
It doesn't make any sense.
I told you that when I was in high school, I used to go by the Martin Lawrence Gallery. No relation to the other Martin Lawrence. So in Lahaina, it's the Martin Lawrence Gallery. He used to have a Warhol painting in there that I used to visit every week after school in the 90s. And at the time, I think it was only like a couple $1,000s. Like, doggone it. Why didn't I save some of that money? Some of that money that I wasted on video games and movies and video cassettes and dates. I could have owned a Warhol.
Yeah, you could have.
I could have. It drives me insane. So no, I mean, I don't think that all art should be purchased. I do think that I love that art can be curated and it could have a home that we could visit it in. But there are absolutely some works of art, as you know, that like, oh, I wish I had that because it means so much to me. I look at it, I'm so moved by it. I am a pop art guy. I love Warhol as a god to me. He always has been.
So there is a gallery. Okay, so 2 stories. So the piece that I ended up buying in Lahaina like years ago.
Do you want to tell people what we have in our house?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I mean,
It's Dogs Playing Poker, the original version that's been signed by the artist.
Okay.
It's priceless.
No, it's a print that the artist like touched up. Okay. So it's not like it's like.
It's not tell people what it is. I don't want them to look it up. I don't want to know what kind of art they got on our wall. Because then they're going to want to know about all the stuff my daughter drew, the real art that we have on our wall. And I don't want I don't want burglars burglaring our house because of our art.
Okay. It's not real. It's not worth anything.
Yes, it is. No. See, that's what you're wrong. You're so wrong about this. Intellectual weight, monetary weight.
Okay. So, but this painting, we went and visited. I mean, I thought about this painting for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's true.
And so we went and visited it at the gallery, and I just like stared at it. I'm like, I don't know what it is about.
Who
this
taught
painting.
those dogs how to play poker? It's amazing. I didn't even know they could read.
And, we'd go back home to Colorado at the time. And then I'm like, gosh, I don't know why, but I cannot stop thinking about this painting. And so finally we go. I mean, it was so stupid. We put it on a credit card, like so dumb, have it shipped to our house. But you know what? We still have it. I love it.
Well, I have no regrets. And by the way, it wasn't like crazy out. It wasn't like buying a Ferrari.
No. It was nothing like that. I mean, it was a lot of money, but it wasn't that much money. So that's one thing. And I still love it. I still think it's great.
Yeah.
The other meaningful piece of art that we had was like a commissioned watercolor painting that I had my friend do for us.
Name drop. Name it. Do it. Name dropper.
My friend Jonalyn Fincher.
Yeah.
And
what's her website?
JonalynFincher.com.
There you go.
You can have a commissioned. You too.
She's great.
Can have
she does
a commissioned
watercolor. Check it out,
painting.
listeners.
Okay.
We need a sponsor, Jules. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. So what she did was she took like different photos of our family and created a unique scene. So what a lot of people do is they'll take one photo and have an artist like recreate it. But I didn't want to do that because I didn't have a photo that I loved that much. So I gave her a few different photos and had her create this beach scene of our family that never actually happened, but except for in this painting. And I love it. It's my favorite thing. One of my favorite things about it is that she completely captured our dog, Charlotte, and her little face. And it's so precious. And it is like a real beach here on Maui. So anyways, I think stuff like that, where it's meaningful, it's aesthetically pleasing, that's the kind of art that I like. Like, I don't want poop in a can, okay?
Okay, but if Jonalyn had taken her toenail clippings and put it in a baggie and then put her initials on the baggie in red lipstick, would you buy it?
No. No. She's too classy for that, first of all, so how dare you?
Jonalyn, come on.
Like, no. Like, that is not art to me. But okay, so back to the movie.
What would it say about her, though? Be like, this is, these are things that normal people would discard. And this is, you do not want to have this talk with me. All right, fine. Sorry, the shape of things. Okay, so scene 4. So let's get to the playground scene.
Okay, but hold on. Like, they have this fight about art. And then he's like, oh my gosh, did we just have our first fight? And she's like, but now we get to make up. And then this is where, like, so the camera is still on him.
How are you going to describe this?
Well, yeah, like, she goes down on him and she's like,
wow,
smile at,
there it is.
It's like, smile at the camera. And so all you see is like what the camera is seeing is his face. And he like gives it this big smile. Once you realize like the ending of this movie, this scene is like a horror film.
I think it's a horror film to begin with.
Well, I think
there's
it's
nothing more embarrassing than a dude who has Rachel Weisz going downtown and he is smiling, grinning like an idiot, knowing that he's being filmed on a video cassette tape.
Yeah. Well, it's horrible just like in a private collection, but when you realize what's going to happen with this tape, it's even more like humiliating. Yeah. All right. That's all I wanted to say about that. Okay, so the next scene is the one you are like itching to talk about.
No, I already talked about it. We can move on.
Okay, so Adam meets Jenny at this playground, at this park, and she basically wants to know if Philip is cheating on her and if Adam knows anything. And he's like, "No, I don't think so. I don't know anything." And you think it's gonna you think it's gonna end, but then like it just keeps going, and she's coming on to him because he's like looking pretty good, and she keeps like, okay, it's so weird, but like she keeps like tickling him. She's like, "You look so good."
But again, it's on a playground. These are infantilized. I probably shouldn't use words that I don't normally use. These are grown-ups acting like kids, and this is, really such an illustration of that. Even in the subsequent scenes where Rachel Weisz is interrogating people about this moment, they're so. I mean, it's almost grade school the way they're behaving at this point.
Yeah. Because they're on like these little like, I don't know, horse things that go back and forth.
Hobby horses?
Maybe.
Have you never been on a hobby horse in your life?
I mean...
Seesaw, right? But you never do the hobby horse?
It's almost like they could have been on a seesaw together. But the way that like Paul Rudd is just like all like, he's kind of like crunched up and just like going back and forth on it. And it's just so strange. Yeah, they are like 5-year-olds.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's bizarre. It really is. But again, like I think it's like considering it winds up being them kissing and making out essentially, and later on there's more of that. This is like listening to kids talk about their 5th grade crush, or like how you made out with someone behind a bleachers,
Yeah, and they're both kind of like, yeah, like we should have dated, back then. Like, why didn't we? And then, yeah, there's kissing, and then it leaves it a little ambiguous because they're now over like on this lookout by the beach, and they're like, we have to go down there and just like bury this in the sand. Like, we never talk about it again. And I'm like, did they go down there? Did they bury it? Did they just like do it? Like, what happened?
I think burying it in the sand becomes a euphemism for these two.
You think?
Yeah, probably.
Oh. So I'm just like, nobody wants to do that on sand. I mean, that's just...
With Paul Rudd? Of course they do.
No. On a windy day and sand, like...
With Paul Rudd? Of course they do. Are you insane? Oh no, there's sand. Never mind, Paul Rudd. Go home.
Okay, so now we're like, okay, is he gonna leave Evelyn for Jenny? Is Jenny gonna like wise up? Because she does talk about how Philip just like isn't that nice.
Right.
Yeah. So that it's just kind of sad. And that the wedding has kind of taken on a life of its own, and now it's like a runaway train and nobody's gonna stop it. So, okay. Is the next scene at the doctor's office?
We can just say it is. We don't need to do scene by scene, moment by moment. But yeah. That's. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Adam and Evelyn are in some kind of doctor's office, and he's like, "Oh, when are we going to get in there? We've been sitting out here for like 30 minutes. I got to get to a job, and we don't even know what they're doing." Turns out they're at a plastic surgery center, and she has kind of convinced him to get a nose job, which is so crazy. I mean, he's going to get a nose job for her.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the thing that bothers me much more is that he reveals to her that he got a tattoo of her initials on his lower torso. Yeah. And her initials, when you know what, are EAT, eat, which he doesn't even realize at first how crazy that is. And because the film is pretty outrageous and it's trying to push our buttons and be provocative whenever it can be without going over the line, Rachel Weisz not only inspects the tattoo, but she licks it.
She licks the eat tattoo.
Like it's a Madonna video, yeah.
Yeah, right out in the open at this Doctor's office.
It's a plastic surgery, office in California. I'm sure they see some weird things in the lobby.
Yeah, I don't know if they've seen that though.
If Madonna came in there, they probably have.
So she kind of likens getting a nose job to just, it's just flesh.
Self-improvement.
Well, but she says because I guess he used to bite his nails, okay? And now he's stopped biting his nails. And she's like, you have eaten more of your fingernails and the flesh on your fingers than the actual amount of flesh they would take off your nose. That's her argument. What's the big deal? It's just a nose. It's just flesh. And I'm like, it's not just flesh.
It's an interesting argument, though. It is. I mean, it's I've heard the same thing. I don't want to get into this conversation, but I've heard the same thing, said about circumcision. It's what is the big deal? I mean, it's just, just a couple inches. No big deal. It's only going to hurt for hours.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. To get a little personal, I mean, I have had a nose job. I've had nose surgery. And it's not nothing. It's not something that you just take lightly. It's not something you just do for no reason.
Well, you were born with 3 nostrils, so it was necessary.
And that's true.
You whistled every time you sneezed. It was weird. I do remember that.
But doing it because somebody else has kind of convinced you that that's what you should do instead of it being a personal decision.
Well, let's face it.
That's the part that I was no.
You could reverse this. You could do, a reversal of the gender of the leads, and it could be a guy, in a plastic surgery lobby, telling his girlfriend she's got to get a boob job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you could maybe make the argument of the same thing. It's look, it's slight augmentation. It's no big deal. We undergo surgery at various means throughout our lives. We go to the doctors, we get needles stuck in us, we give blood. What's the big deal?
Yeah. If it was a guy convincing his girlfriend to get a tummy tuck, kind of a similar thing, yeah. I would think,
Definitely.
And we would say, oh my gosh, that's so misogynist,
Well, LeBute kind of made that movie already.
Oh, he did.
His first movie, which I think is his best movie. I think it's one of the best films of the year. I'll say really quickly what that was like. His first movie is called In the Company of Men, and it's about these 2 men who have just been dumped by their girlfriends. They're on a business trip. They're suit and tie guys. They work out of cubicles. They have Dilbert existences. They hate their lives. They really don't even like each other that much. But they're on this business trip and they're like, hey, how about for fun? Because we're going to be here for a couple weeks, let's find some woman and let's both date her at the same time without letting the other person know about it, and then let's just dump her hard just to feel good about ourselves. So it's about how they pick this poor woman and they basically do this ruse. But there's a lot of surprising things that happen. It's not just about the cruelty, but the movie is about how awful men could be, but then it becomes about how awful people could be. Anyway, I mentioned my friend Ben Bonnet earlier. I saw this movie with him. This is the first movie we ever saw in the legendary historical landmark theater of the Mayan Movie Theater in Denver. It's on Broadway. It's an amazing theater. And we saw it, I think, opening weekend. And Ben and I, no joke, were the only men in this theater. We went with some girls in our stairwell. They're like, hey, you want to go see this new movie? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'd heard about it. And, I mean, this film is so shocking, and the men in this movie are so terrible. The things they say are so awful. I love the movie, but I was sinking in my seat for 90 minutes. I'm not kidding.
And I hope none of them see me.
When the movie was over and the lights came up, I was like, oh, God. I was, kind of hiding in my seat, oh, we got to get out of this theater. But I'll tell you, the conversations we had on the drive home were fantastic. And that's the power of Neil LaBute's movies. They're trying to push your buttons. They're trying to disturb you. There's definitely some things in his movies that are, going over the line, but not irresponsibly. He wants us to engage with his movies the way we would engage with a challenging work of art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's disturbing.
Yeah. His best movies work that way.
Mm-hmm.
His worst movies are The Wicker Man. His worst movies are Nicolas Cage going, not the bees! Oh, God, not the bees!
Okay, so then we see Adam with his like nose post-op surgery. Like,
Yeah, he looks like Jack Nicholson in Chinatown. Yeah, he's got a big bandage over his nose.
Yeah, and he tells Philip like, "Yeah, I just fell. Like it's no big deal. I just fell and like hurt myself." He's like, "That's crazy," and he's Philip's commenting on like he's like, "Oh, did you get a new jacket?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got this new jacket. It's reversible." It's like, yeah, just whatever. He's like, "What happened to your old jacket?" And he's like, "Oh, I donated it." And he's like, he gets so ticked because he's like, "I tried to get you to get rid of that jacket 3 years ago and you wouldn't. And you just like fought tooth and nail." And he's like, and Adam's like, "What's the big deal? It's just a jacket, But I can kind of see like this conversation between friends, like, you are friends with somebody and you tell them something and they're like, "No, I disagree. I'm not doing that for whatever reason." And then somebody new comes along, tells them the exact same thing, and then they do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's frustrating. Most of our friends are like this.
yeah, super frustrating. You're like, "Wait, I said that first."
One of my friends, I'll name drop him. He's never going to listen to this. My dear friend Shay, who I've known since 1992. There's a lot of things to say about him, but what I want to share is that in his high school yearbook, and I've known Shay since 1992, and I just saw him a few days ago. In his high school yearbook, he wrote, "Shay, thank you for all the great advice you've given me." He's never taken any of the advice I've ever given him since 1992.
He wrote Shay, "Thank you," or Barry, "Thank you."
Well, yeah, he wrote to Barry, "Thank you for all the amazing." Sorry, yeah, all the amazing advice I've given him over the years.
I thought he was thanking himself, and I was like, "Well, that checks out."
That checks out too. But no, like it's comical, and I remind him that like you've never taken any advice I've ever given you, not once. And I think I even said it just like that.
Yeah. And then I'm sure somebody else said the exact same thing, and he's like, "Oh, that's a great idea."
Exactly.
Yeah. So, basically Phil and Adam just like fight and like leave this. They kind of have like a little like
Kind of a slap fight.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a slap.
It's
fight.
not pretty.
Yeah. And Adam is just like hops away, And
I feel like this scene should be funnier, and it's not. And I do blame Frederick Weller a little bit. The character is a doofus. Weller isn't bad, but I feel like parts of this performance should be a little sharper. I think it really works best for stage. I think there's certain scenes in this movie where the actors are giving very theatrical performances when I think they could just kind of dial it down, or even just lean into the dark comedy a little more. I'll quickly say like my brother Marty. Hey Marty, the editor of the show. He and I have talked many times about how the script when this was a play was funnier. And it read funnier too, and it had these funny details that aren't always in this film. It's almost like LaBute wanted to avoid making it a romantic comedy as possible. But the thing is, that would have been even more effective. I like this movie, but I mean, if this whole film had felt like a ruse, building up to like, being like another She's All That, I think that would have been way better than this. Because this, what we're looking at is a very good art movie. But if they had, fooled us into thinking this was going to be like another Runaway Bride, for example.
Oh man, that would have been so great.
That would have been so sadistic, considering where it goes.
Yeah, I think if they had fooled the audience as much as Paul Rudd gets fooled, I think then everyone would have turned on her at the end, way more than we already do, which would have been amazing. So then there's only a couple scenes left.
Right, now it's the scene of the two women in the coffee shop, and then Adam joins them.
Mm-hmm. And basically, Evelyn kind of tells, lets it out that she and Philip have kissed because she found out that Adam and Jenny kissed. And so she was like, "Okay, well, you did it to me. I'm going to do it to you." Basically.
And again, it's like not sex, kissed.
Yeah.
Like it's middle school.
Right.
You kiss my boyfriend. You kiss my boy.
Yeah, because she's like, "That's all that happened, right? Like, no tongue, right?" And it's like, okay.
No tongue.
I know. Like, okay. Do we have to like go into details or yeah? But then, so we don't ever find out if Adam and Jenny
Truly, yeah.
did they
Yep.
bury things at the beach or what? What happened there?
No idea.
No idea. So Jenny is devastated.
Circles in the sand, round and round. Sorry.
So then Adam's just like, kind of like, what are you doing? Like, this is nuts. And he's like, I'll do anything to make things right. Like, now that she knows what he did with Jenny, and she's like, anything? And so he's like, yeah, I'll do anything. And she's like, then I want you to stop talking to them. Don't ever talk to them again. Don't see them. Don't answer their calls. Don't return their calls. Just cut them off 100%. And like, basically then you and I are square. And he's like, what? And she's like, yeah, that's what I want. And what are you going to do? And he says, I choose you. And that's like,
I was kind of shocked, honestly.
Yeah.
Even the first time I read the script, I thought, that's crazy.
like, what? Like, this is not like a reasonable request.
These are friends he's known longer. He's been through more with them. He clearly wants them in his life. This is a new relationship. Yeah, I don't completely get it. Even looking at the character's pathology, if you will, looking back on it, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy. Though, again, like he's giving into these impulsive things with her,
Yeah. Well,
So-
it's kind of come out that he's never really had a relationship.
Right.
She's like his third sexual partner ever,
Yeah.
and he's, in his early 20s. She's obviously, beautiful and interesting, and he...
Yeah, you might think this is it. For me.
I think he thinks like, this is as good as it's ever going to get.
Yeah, I definitely no name dropping here, but I do recall a very nice and attractive friend of yours. A few days before she got married, she was hanging out with you and I, and we weren't really in love with the guy she was going to marry.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, I'm never going to marry a better looking guy. And you and I are looking at each other like, well.
I know, like, it's never going to get better than this. And
Yeah.
I was like, wait,
And I'm like, well,
Is that why
you could wait and find out.
is that why you're going to get married?
Yeah,
Like,
and they're no longer married, and she's much happier and better for it. She reinvented herself after that relationship.
Yeah.
So, kudos
So-
to you.
whoever you are.
She's not listening to this, but kudos to you.
Out of our 20 listeners, I don't think she's one of them.
Yes.
Even if she is, it's fine. So now we get to
Grand
the
finale.
final scene.
And it's funny because the scene opens up where Adam and Phil have this awkward thing, like, "Hey, like I haven't heard from you. What's going on?" And it's funny because it's not so much that Adam confesses, much as like, "Oh, sorry, he's
He's
very,
like, I've just been working a
yeah,
lot.
sorry, man. Like, meant to call you back. He's just lying,
Yeah.
as we sometimes do to our friends."
Well, it's like, oh, you've been working a lot. You work at the museum and like a video store.
Yeah,
And Phil's like, oh, okay. Like,
this
I don't
movie
believe
really
you.
needed video store scenes. By the way, really, really bad. I wanted those scenes so bad.
Yeah, you're nostalgic for it.
And I want to see Paul Rudd work at a video store. I mean, that's a movie I want to see. Call it Vidiots, a comedy with Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell running a video store. I want to see that movie.
Well, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
Exactly.
So we kind of see that they're going to Evelyn's show, her final art show. This
Yeah.
is like her thesis
Yes.
for her master's.
And we know that she's been working on some work of art throughout
Yeah,
the
we
entire
just don't
film. It's
know
alluded
what
to
it
that she's sculpting something, working on something.
Yeah, she's sculpting something. And we see that people are holding these tiny cards that says like, she loves me not.
Yeah.
Or he loves me not or something.
I think it's She Loves Me Not.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, well, I don't know what that is. So they go in and sit down and Jenny's there. And then, okay, so Evelyn goes to the front and she's like, thank you for coming to my final thesis. And then she's like, I was just given this engagement ring. And she tells Adam, like, you'll know the answer to your question by the time this is done. And it's like, oh no. So,
Pucker up, audience.
Yeah.
Pucker up.
so then we find out that her sculpture is Adam. And her whole the whole artwork has been reshaping him.
How much she can possibly manipulate him.
Yeah, from the inside out.
Yes. And to illustrate it, they've got this picture of Paul Rudd, basically in the first scene in the movie, basically giving this face like, who? Like, it couldn't be less flattering.
With the black line over his eyes.
Double chin, glasses, just the doofiest thing ever. It's really funny. And, versus the second picture of Paul Rudd where he looks like he's already Ant-Man,
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny. I don't know. Again, the film could have been funnier because there is something morbidly hilarious about this whole thing. And as I said to you, I think there's a lot of relationships that people have been in or are in that go, yes, to a degree, this relationship has been about this. How much do we compromise? Mm-hmm. I think that the film is asking a very uncomfortable question in a very, theatrical way. This idea that we're just constantly dealing with, okay, you want me to change? I will, or I won't, or I will. And this is the illustration of that in a really, garish and humiliating way.
Yeah, but the difference between what she's doing and I think what happens in normal relationships of give and take and, as you said, compromise, is she has told the audience everything I did was fake. This relationship was fake. I have no feelings for him. Everything I did was, just plotted out and just to get him to agree to do certain things that she wanted him to do. She never said, I want you to do this. She would say maybe we should try eating healthier food. Maybe should try some new clothes, oh yeah, what about a new hairstyle? How do you feel about that? So she gets him on these small things and then she gets him to get a nose job.
Yeah. But that's also it. I mean, she's going with this idea that art is everything. Art is the only thing that matters. Mm-hmm. And it's, in this very sociopathic way, and Vice is playing the character as a villain, clearly, at this point. And the movie is photographing her that way. And obviously the movie feels that way about her. But I do think that there are other ways to look at it. One of the things that struck me was over the course of her presentation, people are walking out. And that's clearly the thing that really hurts her. Not what she's doing to Paul Rudd, but that people are walking out of her presentation. But then it does... there's some commentary here about the give and take of any relationship because she's saying how, I never forced him to. I always gave him a choice. So it's okay, she's like the devil. Interesting. No, I find that very interesting because that's, because by the way, Neil LaBute went to Brigham Young University. So he definitely has some thoughts about the devil and God and Mormonism in general. In fact, he was... after his first film, he got an award for being an outstanding Mormon for In the Company Men. And then he did this play called Bash, a play of Latter-day Plays? Yeah, it was Latter-day Plays. And Paul Rudd was in that, and Calissa Flockhart was in that. And that's when he got excommunicated from the Mormon Church because of that play. I say this because it's news, not because I'm trying to be provocative, but frankly, I do think that the author of all of these has some very strong opinions about theology, even though this is not necessarily theological work. But I do think it is dealing with this idea of look, whether you believe in God or the devil, there is a difference between good and evil. There's a difference between wrong and right. Mm-hmm. And, you could say that Rachel Weisz's character is the villain because, she's hiding behind, the importance of art at the expense of everything else. But at the same time, she's also saying look, I sacrificed myself for this. I committed to this. I had sex with this guy. I spent all my time with him. I was his fiance. I committed to this performance. It's performance art. So therefore, doesn't that one thing validate what she's doing? And I mean, what does that say too about relationships in general, where we feel like we have to perform in order to validate our being there? I'm saying she's a victim.
Oh my gosh. I think the part, and we can go back to any parts that you were saying, but I don't want to forget this thought. where she's like, look, you thought it was real, therefore it was real to you.
Right.
I thought it wasn't real, therefore it wasn't real to me. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make you don't have the moral high ground here.
And I love that the point she makes. She says, if you didn't even come to this, if you were home, you would still be happy. You'd be still having this relationship with me. And that's interesting too, because you wonder,
what if he hadn't have come? Is she just gonna like go home and keep pretending?
or is she just going to vanish from his life? Because isn't she's about to graduate, right?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it would be this thing where she just kind of like disappears from his life, literally. Maybe that's what was coming if she hadn't broken it off. Although I suspect everybody would know about it, even though it seems like Adam doesn't have any friends outside of the two awkward friendships that he already had.
Oh, I mean, Philip and Jenny definitely would have been calling him, you gotta get down here. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's okay, so that's like saying, if you're married and your spouse has an affair and you never find out about it, does it matter?
And isn't it clever of her?
I mean,
I hear what you're saying. And
like that, it doesn't mean that your husband didn't cheat on you or your wife didn't cheat on you just because you didn't find out.
But ignorance is bliss.
I mean, ignorance, I guess, but it's still a betrayal.
Right. But if you don't know you're being betrayed, if a tree falls in the woods.
Right, but you can't take as the person who's doing this awful thing to another person, just because they maybe don't find out about it doesn't mean you have any moral high ground at all.
Well, I love that, she, because if we talk about this as this schematic process that she went through, it was very, compartmentalized, each thing that she did to him. And I love it because it's deviously clever. I love that she tells him to break it off with these other two friends, because the idea is that, if he is no longer talking to the only two other people in his circle and she's able to call the shots, she could present this art thing and completely get away with it and nobody would know who's important, Mm-hmm. It could be one of these things like, oh, dude, like, I'm sorry to hear you and your girl broke up. Hey, like, didn't I see your face in like a gallery a few weeks ago? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in a sense, you can almost feel like she's been plotting this the whole way. And I think even in the opening scene, I don't know why it is that she chose him. Maybe it's just because she was just looking for someone to find. But clearly, she is, to use this term, she's grooming him from the very first time she meets him.
Yeah.
She's giving him all these opportunities to do and say exactly what she needs to hear him say so that she could start to do this process of
that's what makes it so sadistic is that
he's an art project.
He starts off nerdy yet sweet, like a decent person, and what she does to him, she's telling him like, you turned into a worse person because you got better looking, you got more confident, you lost weight, all this stuff. And so it's like she's trying to turn it like around on him. Yeah. Like, hey, it's not my fault you turned into a bad person, But it's like, okay, yeah, but you started it.
Considering how many famous romantic comedies are about makeovers, do you think LaBute is making a commentary about that, of how awful it is that we cannot accept people for who they are, but who we want them to be? Because, it's not just She's All That. It's not just Pretty Woman. Let's go back to Pygmalion. Let's go back to My Fair Lady. Well, Pygmalion actually predates, and that's the beginning, Pygmalion. But this idea that, we have to recreate someone to make them acceptable, not only to us, but and to society, as opposed to loving someone for who they are, warts and all, big glasses and coat and all. Yeah. Yeah.
He probably is saying something about, or it's like, you know what? Just like leave people alone. There's someone for everyone, Like if this person isn't like, quote unquote, good enough for you, like, don't try and change them.
But can we also make an argument that she does fix him in the end? He's a better person. He's stronger.
Is he?
He is knowledgeable. He's had life experience that he could never have dreamt of. He's got a better nose.
Are you?
Do you think he's going to look back on this because this is 20 years ago now?
Yeah.
Do you think Adam, who wherever he ended up, don't you think he's going to look back on this like, oh yeah, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and maybe the best thing?
Okay, I don't know. Do you look back on your relationships like that? The bad ones?
The bad ones, or the bad one in particular that I could think about.
Like, did you feel like that made you a better person?
No, but I'm glad I had it. I dated somebody who I think my relationship with her was performance art, and she. I hope we never cross paths again. At least not without a restraining order. But where was I going with that?
Do you feel like it made you a better
thank you.
person?
Kind of, because for years when I would hear from, I had a very limited, and I would say even not sexist, but just a limited view of it. Like when I hear from guys like, oh, I dated this girl, she ripped my heart out. Do you know that girls could be even just as bad as guys? Like, oh man, like women could be they could play games and be manipulative and awful, and be like, oh, whatever, man. Like that's so like what a guy thing to say. What a stupid thing to say. I just think, oh, like the shame on you for even getting into a relationship like that. I'd hear that and I'd think that. And then it happened to me and I realized, oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a very level playing field. Yes, women can be just as awful as we can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I definitely had that happen to me, as you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's I guess, probably a lot of things about this film I can relate to in that way. But did it make me a better person? I'm glad I went through that. I'm glad I survived it because prior to that relationship, I never would have known what it's like to be like 2 a.m. I'm staring at the ceiling, going, "Why won't you call me?"
Okay, but if she had actually turned you into her like thesis project, and
for one thing, it wouldn't surprise me. In fact, I'd be like, "Yeah, that checks out." Oh, no, it'd be obviously, excuse me, it'd be the most hurtful thing in the world. As you and I were talking about, does Paul Rudd and Gretchen Mol get together at the end of this story? Probably. Yeah. I think there's a strong chance of that. I think
there's a strong chance.
Because there's no way she's marrying underwater dude.
No, they broke up.
And once she realizes to the extent that Adam has been hurt, she probably went back to Adam. And they might have been able to start from scratch. Especially if this was the time in their life when they were children. Mm-hmm. And they could actually start being grown-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah. Although I doubt it because it's Neil LaBute and his endings are not nice. So, yeah, it's probably people in jail now.
Yeah.
Probably people lipped off of buildings.
I don't think that like people's ability to turn bad situations and circumstances into like something good makes the other person, I don't think it justifies it. Like the ends doesn't justify the means, if that makes sense. So just because like, because then you could justify any atrocity, right? So, when the fact that Evelyn did this to Adam and completely just like lied to him, manipulated him, she said, because he said, did you ever say anything, like was all of it a lie? And she was like, yeah, it was. And then he said, did you ever say anything real to me? And she said, I whispered something to you like that night. And we know as the audience that moment, because it's pretty obvious. She's like, that thing I whispered to you, that was true. That was like the one true thing, What
do you think it was?
I have no idea. But, okay, so all of that, like everything she did, even if it did make him stronger, even if he does learn lessons and look better and all this stuff, like it doesn't justify what she did.
Well, no, I'm not saying justify.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think we can say like, well, he's a better person now, so it's fine. Like, no, it's never going to be fine because then that justifies like abuse, and I don't think that's ever right.
Sure, no. I agree with you there. No, I'm trying to think about this in the context of a fictional movie where I don't care about the consequences of saying inappropriate things about characters that don't exist.
Well, I know, but I can't like disconnect it from like reality.
But I'm trying to flip it on its head because that's what this guy does. Right. And I think there's something to be said about makeover movies, and I think this movie is an anti-makeover movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's no question that our protagonist is able to stand up to the antagonist at the end of the film. That's something he could not have done when we met him.
Oh, yeah. He's so ticked.
Well, he does the Neil LaBute thing, which, the thing Marty and I always joke about. It's like, okay, of course he calls her the C word because it's a Neil LaBute film. Of course he does, because that's kind of, that's kind of like the unfortunately, the cliche of like what's in every single Neil LaBute film. That's not true, but it's definitely in this film, and it's, it's hurtful and it's impactful and shocking. I don't know if it's completely justified. I mean, the ending is so outrageous.
I mean, I kind of think in his case, like calling her that, like, yeah, dude, like she wronged you big time. I mean, he went from meeting her to falling in love to like completely changing everything about himself, cutting off his friends, cutting off his nose, and then asking him to marry her. And she tells him everything was a lie except for one thing I whispered in your ear. One thing. Everything else was a lie.
You're saying that there is a time and place, a justification to call someone a cab driver?
I'm just saying I don't blame him for that, Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it's like, no, but she did was way worse.
Well, I mean, what's the wrong that he did other than just being himself?
What do you mean?
Well, if what she did was bad because she was manipulating him, what he did, in maybe her eyes, that's bad, is just he was just being himself. And she, saw him as this project as opposed to this human being.
Right. Yeah.
But, I mean, he's, she had to put up with the annoying version of Adam before she got to the, the Ant-Man version of Adam.
I mean, okay, but he was like nerdy in like he would say like kind of stupid things.
Right.
But not like so awful and disgusting. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
But
like,
isn't that also part of it? I mean, isn't it irritating being with someone who is just insufferable and awful as opposed to someone who, can be slick and beautiful, but also, irritating? Who'd you rather be with? Someone who has bad hygiene, smells, and they always say stupid things, but they have a good heart, versus someone who looks fantastic, smells fantastic, but he's irritating. Come on.
No, I'm saying he didn't. No, what I'm saying is Paul Rudd's character didn't smell. He didn't have bad hygiene, from what I can tell. He just like didn't have style. He was a little overweight and just like was insecure.
And she cured him of that. So this is like, it's a glass half full kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. It's like you could do that, or he could have just like gone to therapy and like learned how to be, a better, more assertive person.
Yeah, instead he had 8 weeks with this person, and it saved him years of therapy.
Oh my god.
Yeah. No, I think the ending of this movie is very shocking. I suspect it's the thing that everyone remembers about it. It's what I always remember about it. I don't think this is Neil LaBute's best film. I think that is In the Company of Men, which I love that film. I know it was controversial when it came out. It continues to be for all sorts of interesting reasons, but it's excellent. Please seek it out. Aaron Eckhart, that was his first film. He is the lead in it. He is incredible in it. It's an excellent, excellent movie. And the LaBute's works, I mean, I applaud any community theater with the guts to throw on a LaBute play because they are challenging and they're trying to rattle your cage and they succeed. As I said, there's imperfect things about this movie. At times, I feel like the performances are a little too keyed into the stage interpretation. That sometimes I feel like, the actors, like they might be kind of not on autopilot, but I feel like they're comfortable with where they're at, and they should, at times it's a little too theatrical.
Do you think it would have been better if Rachel Weisz and Paul Rudd had 2 different people in the movie with them and not the stage actors?
Oh. No, well, Frederick Weller, I mean, he's fine. I mean, the character's supposed to be irritating. He's irritating, so mission accomplished. And I like Gretchen Mol a lot. No, I think that's fine. I think tone is everything. As I said, I think, especially considering how devastating the ending is, I think this film could have leaned into the lightness of the material and actually leaned into the dark humor of it a little more. making it more overtly funny, because it is a really funny script at times, and sometimes the dialogue is really funny.
Yeah, I think like a dark comedy would have been great for this.
Yeah, because it is. I mean,
It's a little serious.
It feels like the art movie that it is, and that's fine. I mean, I suspect all four, including the four actors in LaBute, they're like, this is great. Like, we have this cinematic encapsulation of this really special play that we did. But at the same time, you look at it and go, okay, you can see where the play might have been better.
Yeah.
But it's a shocking film, and I certainly found it surprising, and I like it better than I remembered. I'm glad we revisited it, and and I wrote an article about it. But it's not perfect, but 3 stars for me. I like it.
Yeah. I would say 2.5 for me.
2.5.
Mm-hmm. Definitely as a conversation piece. But it's not something I would revisit maybe in another 20 years.
Another 20 years. All right.
Yeah.
So,
and then we would see, like, we could come back, listen to our podcast, and then see if we've changed any thoughts.
Okay. So, what have I done that's made you compromise yourself in this 20-year relationship that reminds you of this movie?
What have you done?
Yeah.
To change me?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I think I told you last night, like, I've definitely, like, my wardrobe has gotten louder and more colorful because of you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And
So proud of that. By the way, that was 20 years of conditioning. Conditioning. That was like, this is pretty.
yeah. No, because I mean, I was like, oh, I just, like grays, blues, jeans, stripes, polka dots, very like preppy. And now it's just like...
And my wardrobe got preppier and less crazy because, as I reminded you last night, we used to go to...
Old Navy.
Thank you, Old Navy. And they had a discount section at the back of the store. We used to go to the Old Navy at the Chapel Hills Mall in Colorado Springs. And they had this Aloha shirt. A
disgusting one.
It was like coal black with these bright orange splotches all over. It's like if somebody had a paintball gun and they just shot it, this black thing. It was so gross, and I wanted it so bad. And I thought about this thing for months, and we'd go back like, oh, what if that shirt's still, oh, it is, it's $1 off, oh, I should get this. And then one day I went in and it wasn't there, and you admitted to me years later that you hid it.
I did.
You like put it somewhere in the store where I wouldn't know where it was, and I never found it. I was like, oh, someone bought that shirt. And it's weird, listeners, because seriously, it was gross. I admit, I remember that shirt vividly, and for whatever reason, 20 years ago, I thought it was an awesome shirt, and now I realize, like, no, wow, what a terrible thing, and to have worn that and had that in my closet, and you kind of helped me dodge a bullet.
I saved you from that.
You did. You saved me.
Because his wardrobe was already like ill-fitting, shirts like from his grandfather. It was. And I was like, babe, maybe we should like elevate your style a little bit.
Okay, they weren't all from my grandfather. I was an actor, so I used to steal, costumes all the time. So, a lot of it was wardrobe from plays that I just never returned. Yeah, Goodwill. I'm always a Goodwill shopper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just things that were like 3 sizes too big, and I was like, we can do better.
I knew that things were changing with you and me because I've bought these glasses and I didn't realize they were designer glasses. This is true. I bought these expensive glasses one day and I come back and you're like, ooh, Dolce & Gabbana. I'm like, oh, I mean dorky guy? Because it just said DG. I'm like, oh, Dolce & Gabbana? That's what that is? I was joking, like, dirty guy, dorky guy. I have Dolce & Gabbana glasses on. Now I'm like, yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I was just going to scratch this off. I was like, no, you are not.
I was going to take out a Sharpie and go over the D&G. I'm like, I don't need this D&G. I just need the glasses. Oh, man.
They were prescription frames, so I doubt they were like that much because
they were. Well, I remember they were a lot more than what I would usually buy.
Yeah, but they looked good.
Yeah, they do. So, yeah. So, anyway, this is a movie. Check it out. It's an anti-date film. If you watch it and you think, like, it's kind of like the relationship I have right now. Well, good. See the film. Consider that.
Break up with that person.
Right, yeah, it's a great anti-date movie. I like these movies. I like anti-date movies. Fatal Attraction's a great anti-date movie. And so is this. This is kind of like Fatal Attraction Jr. So check it out. Shape of Things, 2003. It's not the easiest film to find. I think it doesn't look like it's on Amazon. I'm not sure where you can find it at this point.
Well,
we'll put it in the show notes. And you know how it is. Like, we could say it on the air, but by the time this airs, it might not even be on that streaming channel anymore. It's out there. I borrowed it from the library. They have a physical copy. So when on Maui, go to the Makawao Public Library. They have a copy of The Shape of Things by Neil LaBute.
That's funny. All right. Well, I think that concludes our discussion of The Shape of Things.
Good night, everyone.